Or they say, you understand what I'm saying? Because this is something that happens particularly in Missouri, because Missouri is clearly a pro-Second Amendment state. Missouri is clearly a pro-gun state, right? So politicians learn to give answers that they think you want to hear. They learn to give answers that historically they get away with. Historically, when a politician says, well, yes, I support the Second Amendment. Historically, people will say, oh, okay, good, I was just wondering. But see, we are so far beyond the days when we can allow politicians to give surface answers like that, because I'm telling you, listen, I've been at our state capitol for 12 years. Mark was right. Mark and his family were right here in this pavilion in one of our very, very first campaign things that we ever did, right? And so that was probably 13 years ago. And so for 13 years, I've been listening to the gun haters, right? Gun haters who kind of pretend to not be gun haters, tell me, well, Brian, you can't be so black and white about that Second Amendment stuff. You can't be so black and white about that. And I used to think that they were trying to give me honest advice, right? I used to think that what they were doing was they were just trying to help me to be more electable, right? In fact, what it is, I've figured out, it took me 12 years to figure this out. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but it took me a long time to figure this out. They're not just trying to help me get elected. What they don't like is they don't like me being black and white, because then it shows them for being gray, right? They don't like it when people press them on any issue, and they certainly don't like it when people press them on Second Amendment issues. And so, what I want to say to you today is, look, the fight is real. For 12 years I've been at that state capitol, and for 12 years I have watched them try and try and try to pick away at, to erode our Second Amendment rights. You know, the powers that be would like nothing more than to see it happen where you and I are no longer allowed to exercise our full Second Amendment rights. And you all understand, this is totally preaching to the choir, right? But you all understand that our founding fathers, when they wrote the Second Amendment, when they described the Second Amendment, when they talked about the Second Amendment, over and over and over, very clearly, they talked about the fact that the reason that they wanted the American citizen to be armed is because people that are not armed are subjects, people that are armed are citizens. They wanted to make sure that we would be able to stand against the tyrannical government if the need ever occurred. And let me tell you something. We have never in the history of this great republic, we have never been closer to losing everything that's near and dear to us. We have never been closer to a full-blown tyrannical government. We have never been as close as we are right now to losing everything. And sometimes when I say that, people will say to me, well-intended, good people, will say to me, well, Brian, you're too young to remember what was happening back in the 60s. Right? In the 60s, we thought it was really bad. We thought America was going down the toilet, blah, 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 blah. So America always has a way of coming back around and getting things fixed, right? Now listen, I believe that. I believe in the American resiliency. I believe in the resiliency of American freedom, right? So I'm not trying to stand up here as a doomsdayer and say all is lost. But let me tell you something. Where we are right now, in comparison to where we were in the 60s, 70s, in comparison to any era where people thought we were about to lose it all, we are further down the track now. We are closer to the edge of the cliff now than we have ever been. Bar none, there has never been a time in history where we've been closer to losing it all. Which means there has never been a time in history where we have more desperately needed people like you, right? Mark is real nice. He gets up here